This is the answer key video for the elimination worksheet 2, which deals with multiplication before elimination. So what I'm going to do, since you had 6 assigned, I'll go through the first 6. You can use any of those if you like. Check those and work with those. So I'll work with the first 6. So here we go. Starting with number 1, we're going to use elimination here. But number 1, you can tell just from looking at it, neither of the variables are going to be eliminated from what we're given. So we're going to have to change one of the equations. And by doing that, we're going to multiply one of the equations so that one of the variables will eliminate. So I'm going to look at the second equation. I think the x's can be eliminated, and if I multiply the second equation by 2, because then that'll be a negative 2x for this first term. We'll multiply it all by 2, and the negative 2x will make the positive 2x cancel out. So if I multiply all those by 2, our new second equation will be negative 2x plus, no, we do it to there, so plus 6y equals negative 14. Alright, and then you keep your original one, which was 2x, your first one, plus 5y equals 3. Alright, so when you solve this, it's really nice because the x's will cancel out. And then we have 11y equals 3 plus, oh, by the way, we're adding these two things together, the two whole equations. 3 plus negative 14 is going to be negative 11. And when you divide both sides by 11, you get y equals negative 1. Now to figure out the x, we can take that and plug that right back in for either equation, that y value. So I'll just plug it into, we'll go with this first one. And when you do that, you'll end up having 2x plus 5 times negative 1 equals 3. Alright, 2x, that'll be plus negative 5 equals 3. Add 5 to both sides. We have 2x equals 8. And then we can divide both sides by 2 and get x equal to 4. So the solution for this one, which I'll show up here in red, would be 4, negative 1. And to check that, you can plug it back into both equations, and hopefully it would all work out nicely. So that's number 1. I am going to minimize a lot of this here so that we can fit it all in there. Now, second one looks like you could do a couple different things. I'm going to go with the x's again. I'm just going to multiply that whole first equation by 2. Sorry about that. Let's plug back in, or let's distribute that 2 to all these 3 parts. And I'm just going to rewrite the equation below it so we don't waste space. But you'll have 4x, and then 2 times y is plus 2y equals 2 times 2, which is 6. Now we're in business. Let's combine these equations by using addition so that the x's cancel out. And then you have negative 2y, because negative 4 plus negative 2 is, plus positive 2 is negative 2. And that equals negative 2. Divide both sides by negative 2. Y then equals 1. So we've got our y. Yeah, we can do that like we did with the other one and plug in the y. And we'll plug it in for this very first equation so that you have 2x plus 1 equals 3. After all that work, I get x to be equal to 1 as well. So we have 1 comma 1 is our final solution for this one. So 1, 1, and there you have it. All right, I am going to minimize this as well. Let's go to the third one. Number 3, what can we do with number 3? Well, it looks like the easiest way, I think I'm going to try and get rid of these y's, the y's here. I'm just going to multiply the top equation by 3, so we have negative 6y. So then the new equation would be 15x, if you distribute there, minus 6y equals negative 30. So when we combine these all by addition, we have 18x, the y's will cancel out, and that equals 36. And when you divide both sides by 18, I can do that one in my head. You get x equals 2. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, figure out the y. So I'm going to plug that back in for the x. I'll plug it in for the second one. How about? So if I plug it in for that second one, you get 3x plus 6 times 2, which is 12, equals, whoops, 66. You can subtract 12 from both sides if I'm doing this all correctly. You get 3x equals 54. All right. And oh, I did this wrong. I have to plug in for the x, not the y. Let's undo all that. X equals 2, so we'll plug it in for the x. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 6y equals 66. Subtract 6, you end up with 6y equals 60. And then we can divide both sides by 6 to get y equals 10. Now we're in business. And if we write that as a solution, we'll have the solution for number 3 is 210. All right, moving on. We're going to go down to the bottom 3, numbers 4 through 6. Number 4. Having a 7 and a 5 doesn't look like it's going to work out too well. So let's look at that 4 and the 8. I will multiply the top equation by 2. So if I multiply that top equation by 2, let's say multiply the top equation by 2 so that we can get the y to be an 8, you would end up with, instead of, so we have 5x plus 8y equals 28 on the bottom. I'm going to keep that on the bottom, actually. Sorry, I'm having issues here. All right, so then I'm going to multiply that by 2, and it'll end up being 14 x. 2 times 4 is 8y, which is what we wanted. and equals -8. Now the only difference here is both of those are positive 8s. So in order to undo that positive, them both being positives, we have to subtract. And in order to subtract, we actually can apply that subtraction to this one, and this one. So if we subtract them all, we will have, let me write this out, 14x minus 5x is 9x. These cancel out, and that's equal to -36. Divide both sides by 9, and you end up with x equals 4. -4. So x equals -4. Take that x and plug it back in for either equation again. I'll plug it in for the first one. And you should end up with 5 times, instead of x, we're going to use -4, plus 8y equals 28. That would be -20 plus 8y equals 28. Adding 20 to both sides, you end up with 8y equals 48. And y should be equal to 6. So our solution here, way back at the top, would end up being -4, 6. All right? And we're going to make this all smaller so I can put it over here. And on to number 5. Number 5, hopefully you checked this one and could figure out that you want to change the second equation so that the y's will cancel out. So in order to change that second one, I'm going to rewrite them both. I'm going to have 4x minus 2y. The first equation is going to stay the same. But the second equation, we're going to multiply them all by, let's see, I'm going to multiply that by 2. So, take that over here. 2 times 3x would be 6x. 2 times -y would be -2y, which is what we wanted. And then we have 2 times -8 would be -16. Now these are the same signs again. So adding the two equations would not be effective because that would not cancel them out. So again, we have to subtract, and in subtracting, we have to make all of them the opposite. So that's negative. So this is already a minus, so we're going to make this into a plus. Same thing here. All right. -14 plus 16, you get +2. Cancels out. 4x minus 6x would be -2x. Dividing both sides by -2, x equals -1. Take that -1, plug it back in for the x on either equation. Just go back right there. You end up with 4 times -1 minus 2y equals -14. That's going to be -4 minus 2y equals -14. We'll add 4 to both sides. -2y equals -14 plus 4 is -10. And you end up getting y equals +5. So our solution for this one is -1, 5. I'm going to minimize this so we can do our last one. All right, very last one here. This one is probably the hardest one of these 6 because if you look, we have a 5 and a 3, 5 and a 3. There's nothing you can really multiply one of the equations by to make it so that they can cancel out. So we're going to have to multiply both of the equations by something. And I'm not going to make you do these too often, but it's important to see and to be able to do these. So for this first one, um, you just have to decide which ones you want to cancel out, the x's or the y's, because they are the same, just flip-flopped. I'm going to go with the x's. So what I'm going to do, excuse me, what I'm going to do is multiply this one. We got to try and find a common multiple. So I can multiply this by 3. Oh, sorry. And this by 5, so that they both have a coefficient of 15 then. So when you do that, the first equation is going to be rewritten. We'll do 3 times 5x is 15x plus 3 times 3y, which is 9y, equals negative 30. Multiplying that out. Second one, we'll multiply them all by 5. So then we have 15x, which is what we were hoping for, plus 25y equals negative 30 as well. Interesting. All right, again, since these are the same signs, we have to subtract everything. And in so doing, we subtract all the parts. So minus, minus, and this becomes plus. So negative 30 plus 30, 0. 9y minus 25y would be negative 16y. And these will cancel out. And when you divide both sides by negative 16, you do get y equals to 0. And let's take that and plug it back into really either one. It's kind of nice when y is 0. Plug it in right there, and you will have 3x plus 5 times 0, which will be 0, equals negative 6. That's 0, so 3x equals negative 6. Divide both sides by 3. X equals negative 2. And our solution for this final one then would be the x of negative 2, the y of 0. So there's your answer key video for this elimination worksheet 2 for those of you who are doing this. There's the first 6 problems you can take a look at, and hopefully that'll help you if you're doing any of the last 6 as well. So until next time, have a good one.